We're missing a couple people, but we need to go ahead and get started.
Right, after all, the Chiefs are playing at 4.
Exactly.
Kirk, are we going?
Yes.
Very
Are we
good.
going?
We are going.
Okay.
Good
All
afternoon.
right, let's get started. I guess, Amber, you and I and Jeremy were at the last meeting, and have you looked at the minutes? Any additions?
No, I will be honest, I haven't looked at them yet, but I can.
Okay.
I got them right here. So sorry.
That's okay. We just need to approve them and go on. Pretty straightforward as to what happened.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, I will make a motion to approve the minutes.
I second that motion.
Okay. Good. Oh, good. Now we're going to screen share.
Okay. So I guess we have to vote or something?
Yes,
you and
please.
I. And Tim could go ahead, but all those in favor of accepting last session's minutes? Aye. Okay. Motion has passed. I guess just to help you, Tim, is did you get the packet with the sales tax packet for the meeting? Okay, so you kind of know what's going on. It's pretty obvious that Jeremy always puts what's the point of, what the sales tax numbers are for, and pretty much what we do is make sure that the sales tax collected is spent for what that sales tax is supposed to be for. I am an ex-auditor, and I get bogged down in numbers, but that's not really our mission as much as it is to know that the money collected is going for what the taxpayers said they wanted that money to go for. So that's kind of what we do, is just make sure that that's where the money's going. And it hasn't been a problem since I've been on the board, but we do need to review it. Is that about right, Jeremy?
Yes, I think that's
Okay.
that's a very good synopsis. And if you would like, I'll go ahead and get started on the third quarter report.
Sure.
Very good. Hopefully you can see on my screen the third quarter report. It's also on our website for anybody who would like to view it on the city's website under the Sales Tax Audit Committee in the agenda packet. So Tim, for your benefit, anyone listening at home, and to those of you who have been on the committee a while, we have an annual report that's required by the ordinance that established this committee. And to assist the group with its work, staff has put together essentially a quarterly report that builds up to that annual report. So you can find on our website the first quarter and the second quarter report, which were at our previous 2 meetings. And today we're going to discuss the third quarter. In reality, though, it's from January through the end of September. So the year-to-date report as of September 30th for 2020 for the 3 sales taxes that are under the charge of this group. And so the first tax that we're going to talk about is the 0.3% tax for streets and infrastructure, and also fire equipment. The way the report is lined out, the committee, gives their synopsis at the front. We give a brief introduction into what the tax is allowed for under the ordinance that established the tax. As you can see, this one was established to catch up on the maintenance of residential streets and make improvements to high traffic streets. Also sidewalks, trails, equipment, and storm sewers are all allowed, as well as fire equipment is allowed under the ordinance. So when 2020 began, or I should say when the 2020 budget was adopted, the City Commission had approved a revenue budget of $5,628,000. We're obviously going to revise that down due to COVID. That number is just no longer feasible. But what you can see is that first column is the unspent taxes from prior years. So this would be all the rolling sales tax from its inception through December 31st, 2019. And that number is $1,177,964. The amount of tax that was collected from January through September of 2020 is $4,048,823. So that's the bucket, if you will, that the city has to spend on these projects. And what we've listed below that are all of the projects that we have spent that money on in this current calendar year. So starting at 23rd Street from Haskell Bridge to the eastern city limit, then we have sidewalk, bike, pedestrian improvement projects that are annual projects, our annual street maintenance, and then you can see all those projects. We have them all listed here. On the report, we just list it in summary, and then behind the report, I give a little bit more detail by project, by vendor, how much we've spent, and we'll get to that in just a minute. But in total, from January 1st through September 30th, 2020, the city has spent $2,833,709 of that sales tax on these projects. And then we have spent $13,908 on the equipment that's allowed under the statute for the fire department. So total expenditures year to date is $2,847,617. So if you take the total available minus the total spent, what we have available for future projects as of September 30th is $2,379,170. Do you have, does anybody have any questions on that?
No, just a comment. I didn't realize fire equipment was in here, so that's good to know.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I hadn't seen that before.
Yeah, so the way the fire typically works, because it's such a small amount of money, is they build it up over a certain number of years, and then they plan a project. So.
Oh, I see. Okay.
The burn tower was last year, and then in this year they're actually replacing a rescue fire truck number 5. So they're in the pre-bid or the pre-planning stage of that. Sorry.
I see. Yeah.
I've got a question on that. So when you see something like to replace the fire rescue truck number 5, are we assuming that it's going to be bought in this calendar year?
I don't believe it will be bought in this calendar year. We do plan on signing the contract before the end of the year, but these larger pieces of equipment take 9 to 12 months to build. So they're working on the specifications to make sure it meets all of their requirements. We'll sign a contract with the winning bidder before the end of the year, and then in government terms, we encumber that money, or we set it aside to be spent in a future year. So what you'll see on your report is when it actually gets spent. So you'll see essentially that same line item in the 2021 report, and as we make expenses toward that fire truck as it's being built through their assembly process, that's when we'll report on it to the committee. So if I could jump ahead just a bit, one of the things that we changed, and it might be too small for Zoom, so I apologize. Let me see if I can blow this up. One of the things that we changed this year to try and help the committee with their work is we've added the budget, like what was actually approved by the city commission. That's now that farthest column to the left. The actual expenditures year to date is that middle column. And so for just the budgeted portion, it's $1,130,295, which leaves the available balance of what's left in this year's budget. However, under that are, as I mentioned previously, what you'll see next year on Replacement Rescue 5 is it'll go below the line because it won't be part of the annual budget. But these are all projects that were previously authorized that have current contracts that we're paying on. And so For example, Wakarusa Drive and Harvard Drive, that intersection, it's a roundabout at Harvard and Wakarusa that we signed the contract last year, but we made the payment this year. So it will show up in this year's report as an expenditure. So we don't want to lose sight of that, but it's not a part of this year's budget. So what I'm hoping to do is sort of focus in on what the plan is for this year, as well as track where we stand year to date with previous projects. Because we haven't done this previously, I didn't want to put the budget in there and make it very confusing. But what you'll see next year, when we get through the end of 2020, that whatever that leftover column is, that'll then move below the line, and this is leftover budget from 2020 and how we spend it throughout 2021, if that makes sense.
Yes.
And so if you add the projects budgeted in 2020 with the prior year projects, that's where you get the 2847617, which is the number that you saw on the first page of the summary report. And so what I'd like to talk with the committee about are changes to that summary report to help reflect some of this detail that we're trying to track, whether that's necessary or whether we just leave the summary report the way it is with these backup pages to provide that added detail. As we go through the report, perhaps you'll see what I'm saying, but on the summary page, sorry, I'm trying not to cause a panic as I scroll here. On this summary page, it's just all taxes. We haven't made a distinction between what would be a current tax and prior year tax, if that makes sense. And so if you think there's value in that, we could make that change before the annual report. And I don't need an answer right now, but if you all want to think about that, we'll be working on the annual report after the audit is finished. So most likely in April and May of 2021, we'll begin working on the annual report for 2020.
Okay.
So this is really the only tax where projects go for multiple years just based on the size and scope of that project. As we talk about the next tax, the 0.2 for public transportation, there's fewer projects. A lot more of it is operating cost in the current fiscal year. So that need to track year over year may not be as strong in the transportation tax as it is in the equipment and capital project tax. So the transit tax is, of course, the money we use to help support the bus system and also busing for our special populations in the city. The unspent tax in prior years is $2,759,757. I'm sorry, I missed the budget because of the page break here. So the original budget for 2020 was $4,482,000. The unspent taxes, as I said, was $2.7 million. The current year taxes collected is $2,699,216. And as we break out these costs, it's more of the operating cost up front, so the staff cost to operate the program, and then the transit operational cost are the two of the annual fixed costs that this sales tax supports. And then the projects would be the multimodal facility that the city's been working on for several years, any shelter or amenity improvements, and then the purchasing of buses. And so total expenses year to date is $2,205,708, leaving currently available taxes for future projects of $3,253,265.
So I just want to make sure I understand clearly. So even though the budgeted, so is that the expected tax collection? Was that, so that $4 million number?
Right.
That was what was expected to be collected this year?
Yes.
And so we're down, but that is not necessarily detrimental because there was overflow from last year,
Last year and other
other years.
prior years, that's right.
Okay.
Yeah, and so if we look at the new sheet for transit, we've broken this one out by those groupings. So the staff cost is primarily salary and benefits, but it also includes supplies for the staff, radios for communication with the buses, maintenance, software maintenance, and maintenance on office equipment and their cell phone charges. So all that combined, the budget for staff cost is $140,000. Through the first 9 months, we've spent $128,000 roughly, so that leaves about $12,000 for the fourth quarter. Then the transit operation cost, the first one is Brinks. They're the ones that safely and securely take the money from the buses to our bank. So from an internal control standpoint, that's not a staff process. That's a secured carrier service that's grabbing those fees and taking them to the bank. First Transit is the contract that the city has. They actually run the busing system. So the city staff is responsible essentially for managing that contract and also managing the grants with the state and the federal government around transit. The internal service charges are charges essentially for finance time, legal time, other city departments that help support the operation. The Johnson County Transit we haven't yet paid for this year, but that's the K9 connector, essentially connecting Lawrence, or I'm sorry, K10 connector, connecting Lawrence to Johnson County. And then the University of Kansas, it's a shared building and it's also a shared busing route. So we share cost on utility charges and fuel for the buses, and we pay rent for that space. So those are all the charges we pay to the University of Kansas for that shared parking and transit expense. The multimodal facility is currently budgeted at $3.5 million, and we have not spent any money year to date. And then shelter amenities, we currently have $150,000 set aside, and we've spent a little over $17,000. You can see the majority of the expenses is just on keeping those facilities clean and accessible to the public, but we have had to replace a few broken windows throughout the system as well. And then finally, they are working currently on replacing a few of the buses within the system. Because this is tied to a federal grant, there's far more federal money than local money set aside, but we do believe that we'll get that encumbered before the end of this year as well. So all told for the year, the budget is $8.6 million. Year to date, we've spent $2.2 million. Of course, the majority of that's that multimodal facility. So that leaves an available balance right now of $6.4 million from a budget perspective. I will say, Tim, for your benefit and for others who may not remember, the city actually used to have two sales taxes for transit, the 0.2 that we currently have, and then a 0.05 that was actually set aside for that multimodal facility. And so essentially that money's just been sitting in our savings account, if you will, in preparation of building that facility. So I don't want that to appear as if that's an annual expenditure of $3.5 million. That's a planned program cost to build a multimodal facility in our system to help with bus routing and timing and things of that nature. Does anyone have any questions about the transit tax?
Well, for some reason, I remember that multimodal mobile facility having more money, but my memory's not that good, so that's fine.
There actually is more money set aside. This is what was budgeted in 2020.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And an answer that you're going to hear a lot due to COVID is essentially the answer. But we were well on our way finding that site, beginning design work for that site, and then COVID happened. And so meetings with the KU have become harder, obviously. meetings with the state on permitting and things of that nature have also become more difficult. So a lot of that project has essentially been put on hold while the city focuses on the Douglas County CARES Act money from the federal government that's was passed down to the state. The state then passed it down to the counties, and we have several projects in that pot of money that has a 12/30 deadline. So that's essentially the focus right now.
I see.
But that
Okay.
multimodal facility, we anticipate to pick up steam in 2021 as the partners get back together and we finalize plans for where that will go, logistically, how that will flow, all of that.
Okay.
But as we've
Thank you.
reported in prior years, that money is just going to sit there in the account waiting for that project. It doesn't get redirected or sent to any other project. The voters made their intent clear. That's how they wanted that money spent. We make that attestation that that's how that money will be spent, and so it will sit in reserve until such time as that project's ready to move forward. And so the last sales tax we have to talk about is actually our newest sales tax. It began in April of 2020. And this was that money that I just mentioned that used to be for special projects in transit is now for special projects in public housing. Excuse me, so when this budget was put together, the budget was $942,000. As you can see, I'm sorry, it was April 1st, 2019, not 2020. The tax began April 1st, 2019, so the unspent taxes from 2019 are $721,880. What we've collected from January through September of this year is $674,804. And we have our first expenditures to show you, which total $137,500. So the available right now for housing projects is $1,259,184. Footnote that we've been sharing since September, the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee actually recommended $475,000 in projects. So while there are no contracts yet, we're just keeping people, keeping it in your forefront that of that 1.2 million, 475 has already been spoken for. Final slide here. So the 2020 budget had $924,000 allocated for housing projects. The Penn Street Lofts is the first project to be funded, and that is the $137,500 that was spent just this last quarter, leaving available budget authority of $786,500. So this is probably a good time to talk about timing. So when we establish the budget, we're trying to project where we think expenditures are going to end for that fiscal year. But then there's the reality. And so some of the contracts we thought were going to get written at the end of 2019 didn't actually get written until 2020. So that money doesn't disappear. It stays in that fund, which is why we show you on the summary report what's available right now. And since it's not a part of the 2020 budget, it will be added to the 2021 budget so that those projects can be funded. I know that's a lot of
Where's the
information.
Penn Street Lofts? I don't know. I'm trying to figure out where they are.
That's a good question. I'm not. 9th and Delaware. Thank you, Kurt.
Yeah,
Or Pennsylvania.
Ninth and Pennsylvania. Okay, I'm just thinking because that's my neighborhood. Okay. I don't know where that is.
Trying to remember that project. Is that the 8? There were two pretty good projects that the Housing Resource Committee approved.
Uh-huh.
I believe one of them had 8 affordable housing units. I think that's this one.
Oh, okay. So who's the contractor? Is there a contractor on that one?
There is. I don't have that information.
Oh,
so
okay.
I'll get that to you.
Okay. Oh, you know that project that, I guess this is affordable housing is not temporary housing, that the Lawrence Shelter is doing with that butterfly project. That's a different thing, right? Because that's temporary. Is that the deal?
It is a different project.
Yeah.
I know they've
But
applied for
that's not in here.
but it's
Okay.
not a part of this. That's right.
Gotcha.
The
Okay.
idea behind the affordable housing tax is to provide permanent,
Yeah.
or I guess I should say lifetime permanent, because some of these projects, I think, have like a 50-year limit under federal law.
Okay.
And so we're essentially providing the match to those projects. So what the shelter's doing, I believe, would be considered transitional housing,
Right.
and this is more
Right.
long-term
Yeah, I just wondered what that was all about. Okay.
affordable housing. That is all I have to present on the 3 taxes, unless you have any questions.
Thank you, Jeremy. I guess we need to vote on approval. Is that the way it works?
Yes, please.
Okay. Is there a motion to accept the report that Jeremy presented?
I'll motion to accept it.
I'll second it.
All those in favor? Aye. Okay. I think next meeting is, which is on the 11th, I think, of January, is my last meeting. So, but I do see that the agenda for April, you'll be voting for a new chairman, or whatever I'm called. But I just wanted to throw that out there because I think I'm scheduled as the last meeting because I'm filling in for someone. So, I no.
And we can talk about this more offline.
Yeah.
I believe if you're filling in for someone that you would be eligible for another term if you so desire. You don't have to.
Okay.
You don't have to make that known now, but
Okay.
Yeah, Linda, you're
Thank
going
you.
to stick around. You just became chair.
Well, yeah, I know, but you know, that's only because you wouldn't take it.
I
know.
If I may, this is Casey Toomey, Assistant City Manager. According to the board's page, Linda and Amber's terms both show through 2021. I'm not sure what month.
Oh, through 2020.
But
Darn.
it looks
Okay.
There's a timeline that has, you know,
Yeah.
I can't tell what month, so it may be through April or through, it looks like it goes past January, but we can follow up and
Yeah.
get more information about
You
that.
know, I was guessing,
Yeah.
so it's all right. just let me know when I'm supposed to leave. Okay.
Not rid of us yet, Linda.
Okay. So is that the meeting? Unless someone has something that they want to bring up? Is that it?
that is everything that's on our agenda. I did
Okay.
want to ask the group. We're most likely going to be in this format for the foreseeable future. And so the committee's current time, which I believe is the second Monday of the month at 4:30, is not gonna work for the city because we've got so many meetings that try to happen on that same day. And so while we do have the future meetings listed under that current methodology, the city would greatly appreciate it if we could pick another date that would work for you all, so that we don't run into so many scheduling conflicts with other committees that actually meet monthly and have more pressing work in terms of what the city commission is dealing with on a monthly basis. Our work is really that annual report. That's the critical functioning component of the committee, and the committee has chosen historically to meet quarterly to satisfy that requirement. That's not to say that you couldn't meet more often, but I believe you're required to meet twice a year. We currently meet 4 times a year. And so I'm not asking you or recommending that we not meet 4 times a year. I actually think that it logically makes sense to talk about quarterly activity, the annual audit, and then the budget throughout the year. But I would like to see what your availability is for a different date and/or different time that would work for the committee.
Okay, I agree. I like the quarterly meetings myself. Are you wanting a different day of the week, or
Yes, Mondays are really challenging.
Mondays are challenging?
That's why we're
Okay.
meetings at a rather peculiar time. Is
Oh, I thought it had to do with the game. Okay,
as soon as this
Do you
meeting's
have
over, there's another one. So
I gotcha.
The preference? Do you have an idea that you can?
Yeah, what would be good for you?
well, I'm trying to make myself available to what's going to work best for the committee. So I can rearrange my schedule pretty much, with the exception of Tuesdays at 5:30. That's a joke. That's what I
Okay,
said.
yeah, yeah. Okay,
I believe I was told that Thursdays and of course Fridays, there's not a lot of city business occurring, public city business occurring on Fridays. But I believe Thursdays or Fridays are probably the best 2 days. Kurt, feel free to weigh in.
yeah,
Oh, no Fridays.
Sorry, no
no
Fridays.
Friday.
Oh, Kurt, you're
Thanks,
killing
Kurt.
us.
Thanks, Kurt. So, and again, this isn't
We're
something we
down to
have to decide
Thursday.
right now, and we're missing a couple members, but if you all could let me know if Thursdays would work for you, I would prefer it be either the second or the third Thursday. I think that gives me the ability to give you more meaningful data. If we try to do the first Thursday and the month ends on a Wednesday, then I can't give you to the end of the quarter. So if the second or third Thursdays work for you, then I can communicate with the other members and see if that's something we could do, essentially to establish long-term a meeting
What
time
would
for the committee.
what about the third Thursdays at 3:00? Is that? I mean, should just kind of narrow it down.
That works for me.
Works for me.
Well, we're the ones here, so let's shoot for third Thursday
Okay,
at 3:00.
At 3?
at 3, yep.
I was gonna try to look at.
I will, I'll verify that that's not going to create a conflict with anybody and communicate with the other two members. And if there is a problem, we'll just communicate through email, since our next meeting is scheduled for January. And it's currently
Right.
scheduled on the 11th, but that may change based on these conversations. So
Okay,
I appreciate that. With that,
sure.
I don't have anything else unless you all have any other questions I could help answer. I'd be happy to answer any questions at this time.
I don't think so. Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Okay, we're so adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all.
See you next time.
Thank you.
Go Chiefs.
Yeah.